Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. We hope that you enjoy today's sermon by our pastoral staff at Christpoint Church. We also want you to know that if you have any questions, prayer requests, or need information on any of our ministry opportunities, you can email us at www.info@christpoint.church. We love you and we are praying that this will be the best year yet. Welcome home.
They were willing to take, this was about straight up entrapment. This was about the word entrapment. They're wanting to find something so they can get rid of Jesus with. So verses 4 and 5, this is what they say. Teacher, this woman, look at her. Look at her. This woman. Now they wouldn't bring a woman. I don't think they'd bring a woman fully clothed because she don't look like she's been caught. So they bring this woman, she naked. They bring her. And they say, look, this woman's been caught in the act of adultery. See, you guys see? See, crowds? You guys see? Hide those faces. See? She don't have any clothes on, does she? She might just have a sheet wrapped around her at best. She's been caught in the act. Now, the law of Moses commands us. Yeah, I love the fact there again. People just feel like they got to quote scripture to the one who wrote it. Now, the law of Moses commands us to stone such a woman. What say you? What say you, Jesus? So, I love the fact that this was a trap, and Jesus knew it was a trap. See, number one, they didn't consider him a teacher. They don't even know where he came from. They didn't consider him a teacher, but they're calling him teacher just to patronize him. And so they call him a teacher. They despised and hated him. They despised him. They hated him. He was a threat to their way of life. He was a threat to their level of power and their level of control over the people. So they wanted him strictly gone. They didn't care if it cost her life and him his life. They want him gone. So how many of us in our lives will do this very same thing just to get the conviction away from us? We will chase everything away from us just so we don't have to feel that conviction. They planned a black and white entrapment. Because see, here's where they wanted to live. It's black or it's white. Either she's guilty or she's not. You choose because you're the great teacher. You choose. I want a black and white. They didn't even consider anything but a black and white question and a black and white answer. So I'm looking for my black and white response. See, here's the thing. Here's the trap. Here's the entrapment. If Jesus had said, you got to set her free. You got to set her free. Don't stone her. Don't kill her. You've got to set her free. Then he would have been in violation of Mosaic law, the law of Moses. He would have been in direct violation of that. And probably they would have incited that mob rule. And the people would have tried to stone him. Because all of a sudden, you're speaking against Moses. Moses wrote the law. I mean, so here we are. All of a sudden, we've got him. He can't say this. If he says this, he's trapped himself into a corner. He's painted himself into a corner. So he can't say that. And if he had said, well, I tell you what, execute her. Go ahead and execute her. Then they would have called upon the Roman government because Jews were not allowed to carry out executions or capital punishment. That's why Jesus had to be killed by Pilate. So they weren't able to do that. They weren't able to carry out executions. So he would have been in violation of Jewish law here if he said one thing. He would be violating Roman law here if he said anything, which they lived under Roman rule. So he's pretty much in a place where he's danged if he does and he's danged if he doesn't. So I could have said that a different way, but I didn't. If this woman... Let's look at something. If this woman was caught in the act, then the act cannot be performed alone. Now think about this. You simply can't commit adultery by yourself. You can take a drive in the wilderness. You can pray by yourself. You can. You can do all kinds of things by yourself, but you cannot commit adultery by yourself. It's going to take two of those people. So, here's the question, why wasn't the man dragged into the public square naked? Why wasn't he dragged in? Why wasn't he humiliated? Why wasn't he shamed and embarrassed? And why didn't he have a death sentence cast upon him? Why was it just her and not him? Because if she's been caught, then he's definitely been caught because they are both stripped down, transparent, in a bed together somewhere. I'm going to explain what's what Jewish law and Jewish custom. This was the hardest crime. This is what I didn't make this up. I read this. This was the hardest crime to convict someone of, because you had to have, number one, you had to have both parties collaborate the same story. They had to be caught completely together. And this was very difficult to do because stories have to align. Everybody's story has to line up. They have to be caught in a private act behind private doors, which is usually not even possible. So, well, I heard that she slept with him. You can't bring me, I heard. You've got to bring me something more. And then all of a sudden bring them out and say they've been caught. And then all of a sudden, we're going to try somebody for something you said, and they say that didn't happen. So this was almost impossible, according to what I've read. This is almost impossible to cast a sentencing. It's almost impossible because it's too impossible to prove. So on one side, you've got this mob. They're self-righteous, man. They're self-righteous. They're bloodthirsty attackers waiting to entrap Jesus. It's just like, I mean, it's like a band. It's like a pack of chihuahuas. I mean, you notice I didn't say big dogs because big dogs are like, just throw me something to eat. Little chihuahuas are really big dogs in little packages. Just ready to bite something. On the other side, you got a naked lady, publicly humiliated. Her life is dangling by a thread. She don't know if she's going to die in the next 5 minutes or not. And in the middle, you got Jesus writing in the sand. Okay, number one, you got the pack of dogs trying to just bloodthirsty, trying to get an answer. You've got this woman, she don't know what's going on. She's just embarrassed and stripped and transparent. And Jesus is just ignoring everything. Everything is blocked out, and he's writing in the sand. I love how Jesus ignores their ploy. He just ignores it. Let's just kind of side teach here real quick. Jesus is not affected by the chaos and the crowd. That doesn't affect Jesus. So Jesus is not affected by the pressures of the world. Jesus is not affected. He doesn't care. I mean, it doesn't matter to him that these people are screaming and yelling, and this woman right here is crying, and she don't know what's about to happen, and the crowd's like, none of that affects him. So when we are walking in the presence of the Lord on a daily basis, then we've got to realize some things just will not affect us. We just realize, just sit back and say, look, I'm not affected by that because I'm not walking in the flesh like I used to. I'm walking in the Spirit now, and this just doesn't affect me. So all of a sudden, church is disrupted. Church is disrupted. Who would think such a thought? Tensions are high. People are anxious. You know, we got people over here. We got crowds over here, and like, wouldn't we just in church? I mean, what was going? And all of a sudden, we got a strip show. What's going on here? The sanctuary becomes eerily calm and quiet. You still got going on over here, and everybody's quiet, and they're just like, what's about to happen? It's like watching that build up to that thing that's about to happen on a movie. She's nervous. She don't know if she's about to die or not. They're breathing hard and barking and spitting and going on. And Jesus is writing in the sand. Verse 6. Jesus bent down and he wrote with his finger in the sand. Totally unaffected by what's going on. Verse 7. He ignores them. And as they continue to ask him constantly, then he stood up. Then he stood up. So first of all, let's watch what he does. Notice the very first thing that Jesus does. The very first thing that he does is not try to go into a counterattack. The very first thing he does is get eye level with the lady. Now, I don't know where I'd be if Jesus hadn't got eye level with me. Jesus got eye level with this naked lady on the ground. Because you know the word says that she stood in their midst, which when you break that down, that means her presence was there. More than likely she was thrown out. More likely she was covering herself. See, your shame is never so low that Jesus won't get his hands dirty to defend you. It will never be that low. No matter who you are, no matter what's going on, I'm going to say it again, your shame is never so low that Jesus won't get his hands dirty to defend you. He got eye level with this lady. That's the first thing that he did. He didn't try to justify anything. He didn't try to go talk to the crowd, pull some attention or pull some support. In other words, if I'm about to make a decision, I need you guys to back me. How many times do we go try to pull a posse to defend our decisions before we make the decision? So in other words, I need to find out how many's on my side before I make this decision. So you guys on my side or not? He didn't do any of that stuff. He didn't pull out swords, start cutting off ears. He didn't do anything like that. He didn't put shock collars on the dogs. He didn't do any of that. He got eye level with her. He completely blocked out what was going on. He ignored them. And he focused on minding your filthiness. He focused on minding your unfaithfulness. That's the first thing that he did in our lives, is get down where we are. Because at some point, we got to realize that everything about us is exposed. Everything. So here's the thing. We think we're hiding things. I'm talking about us, not just you, me. All of us. We think we're hiding things from people. We might be. We think we're hiding things from the Lord. We're not. Because when we're right here, we're transparent, and we have so much shame. He said, well, I didn't do drugs that much. I didn't get out behind the lake at 4-H camp and smoke pot in the middle of the night when I was a kid. Somebody I know did that. So, I didn't do any of those things. I don't beat my wife anymore. So, I have no shame. Yeah, we have shame because we are without Jesus. We have shame. And shame is what gets us to a place to where we will just do this and we'll say, look, I can't deal with it. Jesus got down on our level, looked us in the eye. The second thing that he did was write something in the sand. He hadn't dealt with them yet. He dealt with us. He dealt with her. He wrote in the sand. The third thing he did is he went from her level to their level. Eye level. Okay, I've dealt with you first. You're the most important person to me right now in this room. Okay, now I'm going to deal with you. So he took himself to their level. Eye level from her, eye level to them. And I want you to notice something. Notice her posture. She's probably bent down. She's probably covering herself. Notice their posture, which is blood and guts and sweat and teeth and all this other stuff. Notice where they are, and notice where she is. Accusers will always try to take an authoritative role. Always. Accusers will always put themselves in a standing position, symbolically, and you in a kneeling position. Accusers will always try to convince you of how bad you are, but never look at how bad they are. So this is the accuser, screaming and yelling, everything you've ever done wrong. This happened to me yesterday. Yesterday, John and I were doing a little work over at Smithville, helping out down there. And John said, I just had to walk away from a guy, start talking about my pastor. And I'm like, join the club. He said, he said, and all of a sudden he told me who it was. I'm like, okay, that doesn't weigh anything with me. And then he says, what he began to start telling. And I'm like, well, first of all, I mean, to me, that's completely blocked out, and I've ignored it because the chaos of that mess does not affect me because everyone knows that cannot, there's no way that can be true. So, I didn't even give it a thought. Not a thought. And he said this happened some time back. It wasn't recently. But it's a person that wants to bring everybody else down so they can be brought up. So in other words, if I can bring you down, it makes me look big. So this is what the accuser does. So eye level with this woman, to eye level with them. The third thing he does is go eye level with them. And then he spoke these words in verse 7. Okay, here's my judgment. Can you imagine what's about to happen? Okay, and everybody, these guys stop barking. She stops crying. They go to a complete hush. And this is my judgment. And I can just see covering little Billy's eyes because cover a little bit, cover Sarah's eyes because we're about to see a woman get killed. This is what's about to happen. A woman's about to get killed right now in our midst. Those of you, that's what he says, here's my judgment. Okay, and here's these guys right here. We got him now. He's about to say something. He'll be gone forever. We're about to get rid of him. Okay, those of you who have never committed a sin. Well, wait a minute. I want the black and white answer. I want the black and white. Those of you who have never committed a sin, any of you guys, anywhere, especially you dogs that are barking, any of you guys who have never committed a sin, here's your stone. He picks up a stone. I'm imagining this. He picks up a stone, hands it to us, says, kill her. Kill her. Just kill her. Because those of you who are without sin, you have the right to do so. So just kill her, cast the first stone, let's get rid of her. Let's get this over with. So I'm sure when he said that, the woman went into like, oh my gosh. Because see, here's the thing. If they'll lie to get me here, they'll lie to prosecute me, and they'll lie to kill me. So I'm not happy about what he just said. So it's better than the alternative, but I still don't know what's about to happen. But they were teachers of the law. They knew only God was perfect, only God was sinless, and he had them, and he confounded them in the gray area. They thought they had him dead to rights. They were about to crucify him in the black and white, and Jesus like, look, I'm going to give you a gray answer for a black and white question. Take that and chew on that a little bit, and they just had to drop their stones and leave. So verse 8, this is what I love. Verse 8, he pulls us Forrest Gump. I love it. He says, in verse 7, he says, this is my judgment. If you don't have any sin in your life, then you cast the first stone. And in verse 8, that's all I have to say about that. That's my favorite part. I have no more to say about that. And he went right back down to the ground, and he's finished. He starts writing again. He starts writing in the sand again. So, he bent back down. So, these people in the crowd, they're anticipating a public execution. I don't know what's about to happen. The religious mob, they knew they were beaten. They began to disperse. And Jesus is still writing in the sand. So, here's the question. What did he write? This is what we've been looking at for 3 weeks. So, what did he write? Now, I'm going to tell you what I would like to have known. This is what I'd like to know. This is what I want to say he wrote. I can't say that he did, but this is what I like to imagine. I imagine that he's writing, and he's just got a ledger. He's just making a nice little outline where they can see it. I'm imagining in my mind, Lord, let this be true when I get to heaven. I'd love to see it. Is that he's writing each one of their names and each sin that they've committed in the last few hours. Maybe he's writing down their names and the date that they went to that same lady's house themselves. Okay, Bill. You're seeing this because nobody else can see it. Bill, you were there Thursday night. How you feel about that? Get your stone slick. You with me? Okay. Oh, where'd Bill go? Bill's gone. Well, okay. And you, Eduardo? Is it Eduardo or Eduardo? I don't know for sure. How about Tuesday night at 3 p.m. Tuesday evening at 3 p.m. in the daylight? How's that? How'd you think about? Where'd Eduardo go? Somebody tell me, is it Eduardo or Eduardo? So, I mean, and the next thing you know, they're all gone. I would love to know that that's what he wrote, but I don't know. See, the truth is, we don't know what he wrote in the sand. And this is why I believe we don't know that. It's because they were close, she was close, and Jesus was close. Everybody else was seeing at a distance. They couldn't see what was written. So the account of this happening, they weren't close enough to see it. Probably got wiped away a little bit. Probably got dispersed a little bit with the crowd. So, whatever it was, this is what we do know. It changed the lives of everyone on the scene. It changed their lives. These guys went from, I'm about to bite somebody's heels off, to I think I'm just going to go back to my doghouse. Everybody's life, her life was changed, their life was changed, their lives were changed. Everybody's life was changed. I don't think it's so much what he did write that day as much as what he is still writing today. This is what I think. I think his sand calligraphy, and I made that word up, that's a pretty good word, I think. I think his sand calligraphy is saying to us today, church, I'm calling you out. Now think about this. They were in church service. All of these people were in church. All of a sudden, we've got some accusers that come in, and every eye is on this woman. Nobody could take their eyes off Jesus and this woman. And I think he's saying this today. This is what I think we can learn from this writing. Church, I'm calling you out. Think about this. I'm calling you out. I think that we've been relaxed way too long. the Americanized church, and I know I beat up on the Americanized church, but I'm a little bit of in America, I'm ashamed a little bit of us. Because I think we're just kind of cruise control too much. Church, I'm calling you out because I want you to know something. It's not your church. It's my church. I think that we need to realize Jesus is writing in the sand, this church never was your church. It's my church. I want you to call it your church. I'm going to challenge you to say that. Please don't ever hurt my feelings by saying, we like your church. You say, I love our church. But I mean that's kind of a battle with words there. But we got to realize it's Jesus, because I'm going to explain why. Start focusing less. This is what I believe God is. I'm calling you out, church. Start focusing less on the worshipers and more on the focus of the worship. Stop focusing on the worshipers, because the people that come in those doors, they're not all going to look like you. They're not all going to smell like you. They're not all going to have pretty clothes like you. They're not going to have their $6 Walmart t-shirts on like you do. They may not have that. You know what? They may walk in here and they may look a whole lot better than you do. They may walk in here and they are completely in the depths of sin. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Focus on the focus on the one to be worshiped, not the worshipers. This is what they broke into a church service, and they made it about the people. They never made it about Jesus. They made it about the people. Maybe the message Jesus wrote is this: the harder we look at the sand, the easier we'll be able to see. The clearer we'll be able to see. You know what? If you focus at the sand at your feet, maybe you'll see a little bit clearer. Verse 11. Jesus never condoned her sin. He never said, this is a good deal. You know what? Hey, I ran them off because, you know what? You're a pretty lady. I mean, you know, sometimes we get forgiven for something because we look pretty. Do you know people vote in this country according to how someone looks? I mean, I don't understand that one. Well, I voted for him, I voted for her because she's prettier, he's prettier. I mean, you know, Jesus didn't look down at her and say, look, you're a pretty lady. I understand how everybody would want to be with you. You're free to go. He didn't say that. He didn't condone her sin. He didn't tell her everything was all right. He got down eye level with her again and said, hey, woman, where's everybody at? Where'd everybody go? She goes, Lord, I don't know where they went. They're not here. He says, does anyone condemn you? No, I don't think they do. I don't condemn you either. Now, this is what I want to charge you with. Your life has been changed today. Here's where I think I can be the most ashamed of our Christian society, is we build our relationship with the Lord on the decision that we made at the altar that day. We never continue that. We never cultivate that. We never walk with that. Do you realize this is a relationship? Do you realize if it wasn't a relationship, Jesus wouldn't have told her, now I want you to get up from here, and I don't want you to do this anymore. I don't want you to cheapen and weaken salvation by acting like this again. Now, can you do that for me? Do you realize that she don't have a fingernail left. She's gnawed them all off right here in this courtroom outside the temple. And Jesus has just set this woman free. He's given her hope. She was hopeless. He has given her hope. How many of us walk into situations? Our sanctuary may be the office. Our sanctuary may be the workplace. How many of us walk into these places and we are hopeless until God comes into our lives, whether it be a Sunday morning or Tuesday afternoon, whatever, Jesus walks into our life and gives us hope like he did this lady. He never condoned her sin. He charged her not to do this again. Listen, don't cheapen what I've done. So here's the scoop. We're in church service. Let's bring that to here. We're in church service. Those doors fly open. And back in my youth pastor days, I guarantee you I'd have had a bunch of them. They'd have been, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'd have had them busting in these doors. I wanted to really bad. We're in church service. The doors fly open. A woman without any clothes. She's got maybe a bed sheet wrapped around her. She's brought right here and she's thrown down in front of everyone. She's accused of a terrible sin. I want to ask this question. Who among us will condemn her? You know what? Her makeup's all gaudy and kind of run down her face. She don't look like much. How many of us are going to condemn her because her hair's all messed up? How many of us are going to condemn her because she looks literally like something the dogs drug home? Which ones of us will think negatively of her? You know, I just don't know. I don't know what's going on with this woman. You know what? If she's in here like that, maybe we need to stay away. How many of us would probably say, you know what? I'm going to let somebody else deal with this. Who of us would say, you know what? We just don't want her kind here. I don't think we want her kind here. And who will remove their coat? Who will remove their garment and cover her? Because that's the message written in the ground. Who's going to cover her? Because Jesus did this one thing. We don't know what He wrote in the sand, but we know He covered her nakedness. We know He covered her transparency, and He changed her life. Because I'm going to tell you something. I was that kind. You say, well, you know, I didn't grow up in church. I'm sorry. My mama argues with me about that, but for the most of my life, I didn't. I was pretty wild, pretty off the wall. Let's just do it. It looks like a good idea. If it breaks something, let's break it. I was that kind. So I want to know who's going to cover this person. And I want to know who of us is that person. Hello again, and thank you for tuning in. I pray that today's sermon has spoken to your heart and has ministered to you well. We just want you to know that we have two locations, one at our Sparta campus, our main campus at Sparta on the square in Sparta, and our second campus is at Smithfield behind Ace Hardware. And we would love for you to call Christpoint Church your church home. And if you're viewing this and you can't get in to church and you feel like you want to be a part of the church, then you can always be a part of the church. Just drop us a note and let us know that you enjoy being on board with us. And if you'd like to give and be a part of the ministry, then you can do that by just sending a check to one of the locations at 614 Murphy Street, Smithfield, 13 Liberty Square in Sparta, and we'll get you on the road. We just love you so much. And you can download the Christpoint Church of Tennessee app, and you can give online. So we are real people. We're living real lives, and we're serving a real God. And we just want to tell everyone, welcome home. We're so glad that you tuned in with us. Welcome home.